Well, just as I predicted, um, I said that there were going to be lots of analysts that would come in after the fact and claim to have called the crash. The reality is, of course, um, no one that I know of, other than me, publicly called the crash. Uh, I did it, back in here. I warned people it was coming. I explained why it was coming. I even did a webinar uh, and showed attendees exactly the tools I used to predict the crash. The reason it was going to occur was because this intermediate cycle had right translated to an extreme degree, and the Fed had pumped up the market with QE to a point where it was stretched way too far above the long-term moving averages. These extreme right translated cycles, they almost always end in some kind of crash event because they run out of time to correct. So the correction has to be compressed into a very short period of time. That's why you end up with a crash. Uh, so the reality is that there's, as far as I know, there's one person who actually did predict the crash, and that is me. I even heard a guy on the KU report the other day claiming to have top ticked the top. They got out at exactly the top. Um, and I'll tell you what else. You watch. A month, 2 months from now, once this is over and we're headed back up, all of these same um, newsletter writers are going to claim to have caught the exact bottom. Of course, right now, you're not going to hear anyone calling the bottom except for me. Um, I think um, this when we formed a swing yesterday. By a swing, I mean we moved above yesterday's low here, intraday high. I'm sorry, we moved above intraday's high. That formed a swing, and I think that was uh, the bottom. Now I'll go on to say here in a minute. We're probably going to retest this, but anyway, I'm going to make an actual call. So instead of waiting 2 months from now after I already know the result, I'm not going to at that point then claim that I made the call. But you watch. 2 months from now, you're going to have all of these same analysts that claim to have called the crash and called the top. Uh, that it's just a way to sell their newsletter. They're just frauds. Um, this is what's going to happen 2 or 3 months from now. These people are going to come back and they're going to claim to have top or ticked the exact bottom, called the exact bottom. But if you search the internet right now, you're not going to find anyone calling this bottom except me. I'm the only person that's willing to put their ass on the line and make a real-time call. I think we probably got a bottom um, on Monday. When we formed the swing yesterday, that was my signal to get in. Now I'm only willing to get in with a 50% position because I do think we're probably going to have to retest this bottom. So let me show you what I'm looking at here. All right, I'm going to convert over to the S&P. This is the intermediate downtrend line. An intermediate degree rally has to break this trend line. That's one of the confirmations that the final intermediate cycle low is in place. So I'm going to say that we I think we put in the bottom yesterday. Well, day before on Monday. This day, once we opened above this, that completed the swing. I warned people to wait at least halfway through the day, make sure we didn't retrace at least 50% of this gap up opening. And as long as that didn't happen, then I thought it was okay to take a 50% position. So we did that. We held that gap. So now what I think is going to happen is I think we're probably going to rally on the news of the stimulus bailout and everything. And we probably just exhausted the selling. I think we're probably going to rally up to this intermediate trend line, but I think the market's probably not going to be able to go through that on the first attempt. So at that point, I think trapped longs will probably sell, the shorts will re-enter, and then we'll come back down here maybe the first week of April. We got a jobs report here in the first week of April. Uh, we may have to come back down and retest this low. I think the low is going to hold though. I've one of my tools, cycles, um, and I've noted this in my previous videos. I believe this was 35 days into the cycle, so it's late enough that a swing has the potential to mark the bottom. We did get a swing. I think this is probably the bottom. But I think once we tag this trend line, then I think we come back down and we test this bottom. I think the test will be successful. And by that, I mean, I don't think it's going to drop below this low. And then I think we get another bounce, and that bounce breaks the intermediate trend line, and that's where we put the other 50% of our position on. Now, if by chance we get some really good news of the the drug trials are going well, and we just stop this virus in its tracks, then there is a possibility that we just break right through this. Everything gets reopened in a week or so, and the economy is jump started again, and then we start the next leg of the bull market. But I'm not counting on that at this time. So if that were to happen, if we were to just break right through this trend line, then we would have to chase with that other 50%. But that's not my expectation at the moment. I think we're going to probably hit this trend line, and then that's going to be enough of a resistance that we have to come back down and retest this, and then we get a sustained intermediate rally. So mark my words, a month from now, 2 months from now, you're going to hear all of these same analysts claiming to have called the bottom, but you can search all over the internet today, and none of these people you'll see, none of these people will be calling the bottom today. They will wait until they know the result, then they'll call the bottom in an attempt to trick potential investors into buying their newsletter or their service, when in fact they did not call the bottom any more than they called the top or the crash.